Today, we're exploring the Golden Lamb Inn in Lebanon, Ohio. This inn has not just one or two ghosts, but at least 8 that have made regular appearances over the years. Built in 1805 by John and Elizabeth Kilgore, it was originally called the White Hall Tavern. It started off as a small single-story building with 6 rooms and a tavern. It wasn't until 1824 that John added a second story to the building and then eventually expanded it again in 1869. But even though it changed hands several times over the years, one thing remained constant: its reputation for being haunted. It's believed that several guests and staff died here and never left. Over the years, new owners tried to change this reputation, even going so far as to claim the hotel was absolutely not haunted. But even their attempts failed when they would soon experience strange things themselves. And this is why. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson visited and was assigned room 207, which had been newly constructed in the previous year. Unfortunately, he didn't have much time to enjoy his stay as he became very sick and passed away only 3 days later. His remains were returned to his home in Tennessee. But some believe his spirit never left the Golden Lamb. People claim his ghost has been seen walking the halls and sitting in a rocking chair outside of his old room. Room 207 is also said to be haunted by the spirit of John Randolph, a senator who stayed at the hotel in 1826 and suffered from smallpox. He quickly became too sick to continue traveling and spent his final days here before passing away. People say he can often be heard coughing and chains dragging his bed. Some guests have even claimed to see his phantom shadow. These stories are probably where the story originated about a phantom rocking chair moving back and forth in the hallways at night. A door creaking open and footsteps pacing back and forth. Some have even claimed to hear voices talking about politics in the middle of the night. And yes, this rocking chair has become somewhat of a legend with several theories surrounding it. One of these theories is that it belonged to John Randolph. Another theory claims it belonged to Charles R. Sherman, a major general during the Civil War, who died in 1891 while staying at the hotel. However, there is no proof either of these men ever stayed here. So if they didn't, whose spirit could be pacing up and down the hallway? And why? President William McKinley spent the night here in 1901 before being assassinated the next day. But he wasn't the only president to meet such a fate. Warren G. Harding died of a heart attack in 1923 at his hometown hotel after suffering poor health for many years. Both presidents are said to return to the hotel in their dreams. Dreams have been reported with people claiming to be touched or spoken to by their ghostly figures. And don't forget, the Golden Lamb isn't just haunted by politicians. There are also said to be 2 ghost children that make regular appearances. These 2 children are said to be the ghosts of Leanna and Mary Harper, daughters of Daniel Harper, who bought the hotel in 1869. It is believed that the girls passed away due to the lack of proper medical care. Legend says that Mary died first, and her sister Leanna died shortly after, most likely from grief. Since then, people have reported seeing the ghost of the 2 girls walking through the halls and playing in the basement. On top of this, an author named Karen Rigney stayed at the hotel while writing a book, and she wrote, "I've since discovered that the ghost of a young girl dressed in a nightgown likes to walk the length of the 3rd-floor hallway just as the sun rises each morning." She also goes on to write, "One evening, I was awakened in my room on the 3rd floor by what sounded like a rocking chair being dragged across the wooden floor just outside my door. Then, silence. I sat in bed, listening intently, but nothing happened. Perhaps it was the ghost of Charles R. Sherman dragging his chair out into the hall to wait for me. But maybe these ghosts aren't all friendly. Some former employees have claimed that they felt a dark presence in the basement and near the stairwell. They have claimed that objects would go missing, only to be found later in destroyed condition. One employee claimed that she once turned around and saw a ghost standing directly behind her. When she turned back around to tell her coworker about the ghost, it was gone. Her coworker, however, told her that she should watch out because there was a ghost in this area. As the years went on, more and more ghost stories appeared, but some of the newer ones seemed to get crazier and crazier. In fact, I found a blog written by a woman named Laura Stay, who used to work here. According to Laura, sometimes when she was working the night shift, she would hear heavy footsteps running up and down stairs. Sometimes they sounded like they were dragging something. Once, she even heard a blood-curdling scream in the middle of the night. Laura also said that a friend of hers was working in the office and heard someone walking up the stairs. As she watched, the stair began to creak, and when she turned around, she saw a man standing in front of her. She screamed, and when she turned back around to look, he was gone. Years later, a customer of the hotel decided to record an EVP while in the stairwell. For those who don't know, an EVP is an electronic voice phenomenon, which means any sounds captured on recording equipment that couldn't be heard at the time of recording. After listening back to the recording, he heard a response to his question. "Is anyone here?" Even though the video quality isn't great and it doesn't capture anything visually, the voice seems to be coming from a woman. A lot of these stories might seem fake, but when you consider the evidence, it becomes harder to ignore. For example, let's take the EVP. Was this really just random static that sounded like a woman responding to a question? Well, there have been multiple EVPs recorded here. Multiple people have heard different responses on these recordings. And it's not just strange voices that have been caught. In one video, a full shadow figure can be seen walking up the stairs. I will admit that some of these videos are better than others, but some of them are really convincing. When you begin to research the history of the place, it becomes easier to understand why it's allegedly so haunted. This hotel has seen over 200 years of history and has seen thousands upon thousands of visitors, many of whom have passed away. It's completely plausible that some of these visitors never really left. Do you think any of these stories are true? Which president do you think is haunting the Golden Lamb Inn? Let me know your thoughts. Now it's time for the scariest part of this video, the part where you find out what happens when you subscribe to the channel. Seriously, if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. That way, you won't miss any videos. Also, if you want to support the channel even further, consider becoming a member. With that, thanks for watching, and, as always, I'll see you next time.